Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Piccadilly Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prevo, and with me tonight is special guest, the Commish. Commish, I'm honored. So how are you tonight?
Jumpin' John, I am pumped to be on here with you. We got a lot of exciting football news to talk about, and man, I'm just excited to have some fun with you tonight. Thank you.
Not fucking up to the boss at all. So no, it's great. I remember last year we changed up a couple shows every now and then. I got to host Sunday show with JB and my old partner last year, so I'm pretty excited. So it's all good. It's all good.
Absolutely.
One big happy family here at Kick-Ass Fantasy Football.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so I'll start off by reminding everyone early this time that we do have a call-in line at 877-511-1024. So we'll just count down the minutes until Jersey in the House gives us our weekly call. And you do have the chat room up and running. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Chat room's up and running. Everybody has any questions about it's a big waiver wire night tonight, please put them through. We're happy to help you get your players picked the right way, who to drop, who to keep, all that kind of great stuff to make sure you win this week, because it's all about winning and getting to a league championship, baby.
And I'm going to tell you, Commish, normally Ray and I lead off by talking about our Kick-Ass Fantasy League that we started this year. And it had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I was 4-0 going into this week. So nothing at all. And I figure it's only fair that we continue this tradition, even with you on instead of Ray, for two reasons. One, because someone on this radio show is 5-0, and the other reason is, my weekly What If column. I am actually titling it this time Fantasy Karma. My What If Fantasy Karma, because I just got blitzed in all my leagues pretty much, and I think it's due to some Fantasy Karma that I don't know how many times I mentioned I was undefeated, especially on Sunday show, and I got crushed.
Right. Oh man. I hate that. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good in our staff league. I'm 5-0, and hopefully things continue. Knock on wood. It's all good, man. It's all good. I knocked off Happy Galley this week by 20 in the staff league. Good stuff. I have a pretty good team. I'm rocking with. I'm holding steady with Cam Newton as my quarterback, but really what's been getting it done is Reggie Wayne's been blowing it up for me real well. Ray Rice has been solid. Brandon Marshall's been putting in some really solid games for me. And, good stuff. Giants' defense has been decent. I've been having luck with the strength of my schedule going on. So, there's always a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing. There's actually a lot of that goes into fantasy football. Obviously, starting off a good draft. Mentioning, getting Reggie Wayne when, kind of an afterthought this year with all the changes that are going on. So obviously it's working out pretty well. From my position, I actually sort of lucked out in this league. My number one draft pick in at least 4, if not more, leagues was Chris Johnson. Yeah. So I'm a little bit hurting. As I mentioned, it's been at least 4 leagues that I drafted him. Also drafted him with my pop in our auction league. So I'm hurting a little bit. Starting off the year in a hole. In one league, I had Chris Johnson and Matt Forte. So when he got hurt, it's definitely not conducive to a lot of fantasy wins there. But I was able to eke it out in our league, and still 4-1, and looking forward to next week. Absolutely, good stuff.
All right, good stuff. So I got a question for you. And big Philadelphia fan base here. And
I bleed green myself from time to time.
Yeah, in all fairness, I'm also a Steeler fan, so this Sunday's game is a little bit bittersweet, but I do consider myself more of an Eagles fan than a Steeler fan.
Right.
especially when I have Ben Roethlisberger as my starting quarterback and he doesn't get me a touchdown and I lose by 3 points. But that's a whole other issue. So,
right.
Michael Vick, what do you do with him? He so far in the season he has 6 interceptions, 3 fumbles, and not that you want your quarterback to lead the league in rushing, but only 146 yards rushing. So what do you do with Michael Vick?
Wow, that's a great question. One of the things I look at is I'm a big strength of schedule guy. I may wait a little bit more than others, but looking ahead, the good news is they got Detroit this week, who has an awesome pass rush, but their secondary is to be desired. So he can actually put up some decent numbers, I think, this week. They're going to have to set up a lot of the play-action pass with McCoy, and I think they can, and they have had it in the past, some great success against Detroit. So I think this could be a step in the right direction. Then they have a bye, which is great. And, always coming off the bye, Reed's got some crazy, ridiculous, awesome record that he doesn't really lose off the bye. I don't know if that he's ever lost. If he has, it might have been once since he's been head coach here. And they got Atlanta off the bye, and they have Atlanta at home. So that could be really good news for the Eagles. And Atlanta's defense does not scare me at all, and that's a possibility he could be remaining upright, that game, which is nice. And after that, they go into the Saints. So really, these next 4 weeks could be some nice, healthy weeks for Michael Vick moving forward. So that is good news because it's really been tough to watch them play. And as a fantasy owner of Michael Vick in 2 of my leagues, I think it'll be a little bit easier to watch these up and coming weeks.
You are correct. I do believe he's undefeated coming off the bye. If not, maybe you're right with the one loss. I think he is undefeated coming off the bye. And he's almost going to have to do well against Detroit, I believe, because you're correct. The front 4 is very strong. But, Detroit's coming off their bye, and, they've needed some help. And even though they haven't looked so good at times, they do have one of the top passing games. They do have one of the top passing teams in the NFL. So, he's going to have to do good. And, you're right, coming off a bye and facing Atlanta, I mean, that's going to be tough sledding. So I guess my other question to you is, let's say they A, lose the next couple games, or B, they manage to win as they have by a couple points, but Vick hasn't looked good. I mean, can you foresee the situation that Nick Foles comes in as the starting quarterback?
You know what? I think Andy Reid is live or die right now by Michael Vick. He's basically put everything on his shoulders, and guess what? If this team fails, I don't think we're going to see Reid at the end of the season. But you know what? I'll take the 1 or 2 point wins if that's what it's going to take to get us to where we need to be at the end of the year at this point, because it's been driving me nuts just to be a bridesmaid, never a bride. You know what I mean?
I'll take any win I can get, absolutely. And you're right. So they have Detroit, they have a bye week, they have Atlanta, they have New Orleans, and then they have Dallas going into a couple of division games. Dallas, Washington, and then it's Carolina
after that. So they have some good. They have some good games coming up that they can do some damage. I mean their schedule isn't all that hateful. I mean the Eagles Dallas is always a great game. Washington's defense is horrible. Definitely a winnable game. Carolina hasn't shown us anything. Then you got Dallas again. Tampa Bay's horrible. Cincinnati might be a little bit difficult because they have a decent D. And then you got Washington again, week 17. I mean, guess what? Eagles have a shot to put something together. They got to beat Detroit, which they should. Atlanta off the bye. I'm loving them off the bye. And Saints are beatable because they have no D. They could really put up some big wins. So I think you got to hold on to Vick for right now because the future looks a little brighter.
Well, let's hope so. Obviously, wishing nothing but the best for Mr. Vick and our True Green Eagles. So, it's definitely an interesting dilemma, and we'll see how it plays out. Another question I have for you is, we just talked about the Saints and how they have no D. They did manage to beat a pretty tough San Diego team. And, we saw some signs of life, from Drew Brees a little bit more than they had. And so I guess I'm wondering, is the Saints win a sign of things to come?
Well, you know what? The good news is they have such a potent offense, and that's what obviously keeps them in a lot of games. It's a shame they haven't won more. They probably should have won a little bit more than they have already, but with the lack of seeds, that certainly has made it tough. This week, of course, they're going into that bye week, and coming out of the bye, they got Tampa Bay, so that should be win number 2. But then they got a real tough game at Denver with Peyton Manning coming up, so that's certainly going to be a real tough matchup. And then, of course, they got to go. They'll be home against the Eagles. So after the bye, they should get healthy against Tampa Bay. But after that, I don't know. They might be playing for some draft picks. It looks like to me they got a tough schedule ahead of them.
Well, they have to win. I think at minimum 8 or 9 games just to be getting into the playoffs. It's not going to be an easy ride this year, especially with the way the NFC West has been performing. So I can't see getting in. I don't even know if anyone's going to get in with a 9-7 schedule, except for possibly the NFC East leader as they beat each other up. So
right.
Yeah, it's definitely not quite what you expected. I guess with all the coaching issues and the suspensions, that it's not unforeseen, but just not what you expect out of a Drew Brees-led team. So those New Orleans Saints, very interesting. Just to remind everyone that New Orleans is on the bye next week. We got 4 teams: Carolina, Chicago, Jacksonville, and New Orleans. So please plan accordingly. All right, I got a couple games that we usually do a segment. We started this year. It's called For Real, and just wondering, some performances that stood out for me during this weekend's games, and I want to ask you if you think they're for real. And we'll start with the Cleveland Browns. And Brandon Weeden, he's a rookie. He's an older rookie, 22 for 35, 291 yards, 2 touchdowns with 2 interceptions against the Giants. And then Josh Gordon, who, I'll pat myself a little bit. I kind of been touting as the receiver to own eventually in Cleveland, and this is coming out: 2 catches, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. So pretty impressive there. So what do you think? Are either of them for real?
You know what? I think they are for real. I think I like this Brandon Weeden. I especially like him as a bye week replacement quarterback. He's got a decent matchup this week against the Bengals, and with a lot of, you mentioned all the teams on the bye, especially the Drew Brees owners, Cam Newton owners. Not a bad guy to have in there to plug in, probably get you a good 20, 25 points. I don't see him doing much less. The Cleveland Browns on a whole aren't a terrible team. They do get Joe Hayden back, I believe, this week, which can make life a little difficult for Andy Dalton, by the way, on the other side. Just a little footnote to that. But I like this Brandon Weeden guy. I think he's decent. Josh Gordon, look, he only had 2 catches. They were for 82 yards and both were touchdowns, which is nice. I think I'm not 100% sold on him just yet, but definitely a guy you want to watch for. This year the leagues are pretty plentiful with the wide receiver position, so it might be tough to break into a starting lineup at any point. But if you need him on a bye or you got hit with the injury bug a little bit, definitely a guy you might want to start taking a look at. But I'm not 100% on him just yet. But Brandon Weeden, like him as a bye week replacement, absolutely.
Yeah, I tell you, definitely if you're looking for an upside flex type position for the bye weeks, Josh Gordon's an interesting name to throw out there. Another game that really stood out was, San Francisco. They have Alex Smith throwing for 352 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Michael Crabtree throwing for 6 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. So Alex Smith and Michael Crabtree. I think for now we know the answer to one of them, but let's see what the commission has to say. Are they for real?
Yeah, I think I've been talking about Alex Smith even early on. I loved him as a number 2 QB, without a doubt. And look, he's shown here he does 352 yards, 3 touchdowns. He showed you that he can give you a QB1 kind of number. So definitely a guy you want on your team. Definitely a guy I'd feel comfortable with having as my number 2 quarterback still. And definitely a guy if my starter's off, I have no problem starting Alex Smith moving forward. Definitely a guy who's finding his way, especially in this Jim Harbaugh offense. But I guess we're going to talk about him just a little bit. He did suffer a little bit of an injury that I know Harbaugh is a little concerned about. He sprained the middle finger on his throwing hand on the last play of Week 5, so it's something that may be a concern according to the coach. So something to watch out for.
So okay, Alex Smith, I know he's definitely been mentioned. He's a little bit more than game manager, that's for sure. But what about Michael Crabtree? He's done little to nothing. He's starting to come out a little bit this year, but this has really been a great game for him, 113 yards and a touchdown. And what do you think about Michael Crabtree? Is he for real?
I'm not a big Michael Crabtree fan. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I think he's just too up and down for me. I mean, if anything, I guess I'd probably, if I needed him as a WR3, that would be the spot I would only consider him for. But if I had a better option, I would probably look to it. The next guy you have on this list, Robert Meacham, I know you want to talk about. Like, I loved him this week because of the matchup. I talked about him last Sunday in the show. He was a great start because it was the perfect marriage. He was going against his old team. They're playing on Monday Night Football. I mean, you knew Meacham was just going to have a huge game. Crabtree, I think, you want to watch the matchups. What corner is he going up against? What kind of defense are they playing? And I think that's how you got to kind of gauge what a Crabtree's going to do. And us fantasy football guys don't spend a lot of time doing that normally, so I'm probably looking for a better option. So I think he's too up and down to consider him for real just yet.
Yeah, I tell you, there's definitely certain quarterbacks, and maybe I'll say there's even more lately, who they're going to throw to the open guy. And it doesn't matter if it's the first receiver or fifth option, they're going to throw to the open guy. And, one of them, is Aaron Rodgers. And I have Jordy Nelson. I have him on several teams, and he's been a huge disappointment, not because of talent, but just because there's other guys that are open, and Aaron Rodgers is throwing to him. You got certain guys like, Jay Cutler, going to look for Brandon Marshall, and that's who he wants to get it to. But Alex Smith, I think, is definitely a quarterback. He doesn't care. He's just going to find out who's open. I'm definitely with you on the Michael Crabtree. The other thing I just want to note, too, is in all fairness, is, all three teams, the defenses they played against, Cleveland played against the Giants, San Francisco played against Buffalo, and San Diego played against New Orleans, and they all have had their issues. So just a little bit of caution on that, just to make sure everyone is aware of that. But definitely considering the right situation, at least the quarterbacks I think are all good plays. Another name I just wanted to mention, not that he wasn't on fantasy radar, especially from last year, but kind of an afterthought this year due to injuries. Rashard Mendenhall came back pretty big, at 81 yards rushing, 20 yards receiving. He had 2 touchdowns, and I'm still waiting for his one lateral to be called an actual pass so I can get the 6 points from Roethlisberger. But Rashard Mendenhall, still waiting.
Yeah, I think this guy's for real. I think he definitely exceeded my expectations on Sunday. Definitely was on a little bit of a snap count, but and I think moving forward they're saying that he is going to be the lead back, but he still will split a little bit of time. But love what I saw. I think he is for real, and I think they needed a guy like him to step in there and take charge of that running back position because they've just been absolutely hateful. So love him moving forward. Got a great matchup this week with Tennessee, and then the Bengals after that. So 2 great matchups in a row that he should be able to shine, put up some decent fantasy numbers.
All right, great. Well, I'll tell you what, we're running up against our commercial break. We're going to come back in 2 minutes. We're going to go over some injuries, some ads, and players to trade. And we're going to take 2 minutes, and we're also going to talk to Vic from Fantasy Player Exchange. So 2 minutes. This is the Piccoli Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prero, with the commish, and we'll see you in a few.
Now is your chance to experience the new game that's transforming fantasy sports. Fantasy Player Exchange is a new daily game that allows you to compete against friends and fantasy foes for cash prizes. With FPX, you can select 5 players from any active sport. Sign up now at fantasyplayerexchange.com for your chance to beat ESPN Radio's Henry the Commish Brick and win $1,000 cash. Go to fantasyplayerexchange.com to sign up and play today. Remember, that's fantasyplayerexchange.com.
Fantasy football owners, it's draft time, and KickassFantasyFootball.com makes it easy.
How do we make it easy?
Projections from the experts, cheat sheets with your scoring rules.
What else?
Articles all season long, waiver wire picks, trade advice, everything you need to win a championship.
How about a free judgment from FantasyJudgment.com, a $15 value?
Now we're talking.
Subscribe today for just $9.95. We'll throw in a complimentary cruise for two to the Bahamas.
Cruise to a championship with KickassFantasyFootball.com.
We're famous for our buffalo wings. The Piccalilli. When it comes to cooking wings, we're the king. The Piccalilli. Pull up a chair, grab a table, enjoy the atmosphere. Have something good to eat or have yourself around. If you can't stop in, stop back. Great food, great treats where everybody is a friend. If you can't stop in, stop back. The Piccalilli Inn.
It isn't fall without the famous Piccalilli Inn. Catch all of your favorite football action at the Piccalilli Inn. Check out the Pick's brand new menu featuring homemade buffalo chicken egg rolls, buffalo shrimp, scallops, and the tender Pick burger. They go great with one of the Pick's ice cold on-tap beers. Catch every football game at the Pick. Enjoy an awesome meal while you watch your favorite team. The Piccalilli Inn, a Jersey tradition since the 1920s. On Route 206 in Chemong. If you can't stop in, stop back.
The Piccalilli Inn.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Piccalilli Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prevost, special guest, the commish, and we also have our weekly call. Don't hurt your arm there, okay, Henry? And we got Victor from Fantasy Player Exchange. Got a lot to talk about. Big week on Fantasy Player Exchange. Not such a big week from the commish, but Victor, why don't you go ahead, tell us a little bit about what you're doing, and tell us a little bit about what the commish isn't doing.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on again.
Hey, Victor. It's great having you, man.
Thanks. Well, the Beat the Commish game, for those of you that don't know already, we are having a weekly contest against the commish himself, and the idea is whoever has the highest return on investment over the commish will win $50 each week. And just so you guys know, the commish has not won yet, and this week was, I believe, his worst outing yet.
Don't remind me. I came in 11th. This is horrible.
John D. Ali's trainer right next to me is saying it. You may hear him. Down goes Frazier.
Nice. That's nice. I got crushed this week, Victor. I tell you, I did good with a couple of my guys. I had Andrew Luck, who did really, my return on investment was huge. Matt Ryan, who I just loved. He was like my stud of the week. I talked about in our Sunday show. But, man, I just got let down. Leonard Hankerson let me down, especially, RG3 got hurt. That probably didn't help that. And Gates, I just expected a much bigger game out of him. And, I was counting Meacham, and I should have listened to myself. Meacham is who I should have had in there. And then Andy Dalton, just poor performance. So I'm going to put it together this week, though. Sunday when we talk, I'm going to, again, announce my team, and I will come in first. I'm confident.
Well, that's to be seen, but we'll see. I mean, I believe you.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
But, no, I mean, as long as everybody else is playing and understanding the game, I think everybody's getting out there that they're realizing that the return on investment is really not just about picking the best players and, putting all your money in there. You want to make sure you're getting those sleepers, those guys that you might not be expecting, and that's how teams are winning. I mean, the past couple of weeks, it's been guys that, who may have a so-so week, you would think, and then they just have a ridiculous week, and that's what it is. It all depends on the guy that just goes crazy.
Yeah, I think Meacham would have been a good call this week. The two touchdowns.
Meacham was definitely the right call. Definitely. I mean, there. Not only though can you play football, this is a multi-sport fantasy, which is great. So, like I know Misfits had Derek Jeter out there and had 187% return on investment. That is huge. So, that's what's so great about playing fantasy at FantasyPlayerExchange.com. You don't have to have just football guys. If you're into baseball, you can have baseball guys. I know you have basketball coming up in another month and a half. That's going to be huge. You got college football on Saturdays. I mean, this is just awesome stuff. You can mix and match what kind of players you want depending on the day you're playing, right, Victor?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really cool about it is if basketball is not your thing, you still have football games, especially now with college. I mean, coming up in bowl season, there's a game every day for like 2 months straight. So you're always going to have somebody to play on a football game. Or, like I said, basketball, there's a professional game all the time. We're going to be getting college basketball soon once that starts up. So, looking far into the future now, but March Madness is going to be insane. That's something that we're really looking forward to.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big bowl game kind of guy. I mean, I love my fantasy football, but bowl games are where it's at. I mean, I'm just parked in front of the TV, especially when the big bowl games are on, man. I'm just watching football all day. I drive my wife crazy. But, man, that's exciting because I'll be able to play at fantasyplayerexchange.com and enjoy the games as well. So it's really good stuff.
Yeah, thanks. And the other thing that I know I've mentioned in the past, but we are still having a promotion. Anybody who signs up will get $10 free to plan anything they want. So they could play your Beat the Commish game every week for 5 weeks, and it'll cost them nothing, or they can play the Beat the Commish game, and they have $8 extra to spend on any other games that we have going on.
Wow, that's awesome. So sign up right now. You get 10 free bucks to play against me in the Beat the Commish game at fantasyplayerexchange.com. That is awesome. Victor, thanks so much for coming on with us. We'd like to have you on again. I can't wait to talk to you Sunday when I reveal the winning team, okay? I'm just letting you know right now. It's done. I don't think anyone has a shot to beat me, but I dare them if they wish.
All right. Well, good luck to you, okay?
All right, Victor. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Well, I'll tell you, big talk coming from the commish. So I like that.
Absolutely. I'm going to put it together.
I think the secret, I'm going to let everyone in the secret this week. Put it all in hockey.
Absolutely.
All right. So, talk about some players that stood out, and how about talking about some players that went out? Kind of pretty big injury list going here, and we can breeze through a couple of them. You talked about Alex Smith, middle finger. I'm not really sure it's going to mean much, so I don't expect him to miss any time or really affect him. Jake Locker has already been ruled out. It's an early game, and I'm sure it's a couple-week injury with his shoulder. So, Matt Hasselbeck has I'm sure gotten picked up in a lot of leagues. I picked him up in a 2-quarterback league, expecting a multi-week injury. Two of the other quarterbacks that I just want to feel you out on, big name, RG3. He's having a great year. He's a rookie. He's shot out of the box, got a concussion. What do you think about RG3, chances of playing, and what's it mean?
Yeah, you know what? I actually have RG in one of my big money leagues, so I'm absolutely on this. Very, 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 very much. I've been looking at the news all day, watching the injury report. The good news is it was a mild concussion, and he's already received clearance to return to practice. So it looks good that he will be playing Sunday. So that's real good news. The bad news is though that this guy is their franchise quarterback, and they put him in a position that he can get hurt like that. It's just a shame because this guy is going to be their guy, God willing, for the next 8 to 10 years, and to put him out there to get crunched like that. I know obviously there's some design plays, but they got to teach this kid to slide and duck, and because he's going to get his head ripped off again if he doesn't watch himself.
Yeah,
I'm loving the yardage on the ground, but man,
it was a good solid tackle. He got his bell rung. I mean, it does happen. And the one thing though is he was a high draft pick. Normally, when you have a high draft pick, there's a reason for it. And the reason is your team's not that good. And one of the first things you really want to look at when your team's not that good is your offensive line and your defensive line. So being an ex-lineman myself, I'm a very strong proponent of being strong up front. And, Redskins, their offensive line just isn't that great. So, talk about putting them in a position. I don't know that they really had much choice.
Jumping John, I didn't know you were a lineman. What position on the line?
Oh, I played offensive tackle and defensive end in high school and defensive end in college. Nice.
That's good stuff, man. I was a left tackle and nose guard on defense. So yeah, good stuff.
There you go.
Right.
So you know exactly what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Us linemen got to stick together.
There you go. No one else will stick up for us. All right.
That's right.
So Matt Castle, another concussion, and whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, certainly don't wish injury on anyone. I certainly wouldn't cheer an injury, as a couple unfortunate fans did down in Kansas City. Matt Castle, he's been listed as week to week, so I don't expect him back anytime soon. What do you see happening with Matt Castle?
Yeah, he has not been ruled out for Week 6 yet, but it's highly unlikely he's going to play. And Romeo Crennel's already been talking about, sitting him down and bringing Brady Quinn in. I personally think this is not good news, especially for Dwayne Bowe, and not good news for Jamal Charles, because I don't know how much confidence I have in Quinn, and I don't think that a lot of defenses are going to be worried too much about Quinn, so they're going to be loading up the box with 8 in the box against Charles here. So say what you want about Castle, but at least he gives you a threat to get the ball downfield. So but can Quinn do much worse? I guess we'll be seeing it.
Yeah, I actually have Dwayne Bowe in a couple of leagues, and that's the big question now. Is he's actually been getting me some good garbage time fantasy points. I'm not sure if I should expect that with Brady Quinn. So there's a big question. Back to you, Mish. What do you think? Dwayne Bowe, should we keep rolling with him, or?
You know what? I'm probably going to roll with them this week for one reason and one reason only. They're playing Tampa Bay. And the one thing you do with Tampa Bay is pass on them. So if Brady Quinn can't get it done against Tampa Bay, he ain't getting it done. So, this is 1 week. If I had Bowe, I'm still going to play him, even with Brady Quinn in there, because, like I said, I think they're going to be loading up 8 in the box on Jamal Charles, which should give Bowe some one-on-one plays down the field. It's just a matter of Brady Quinn can get on the ball.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I was actually thinking of putting Brady Quinn in as my sleeper of the week. So I hear you on that Tampa Bay. They actually have a pretty decent rush defense. So if you want to do anything, you're going to throw the ball to them.
Yep.
All right. A couple big laundry list of running backs. Some of them. Bernard Scott has a knee injury. He's on IR, but I'm not too sure too many teams that had him going anyhow. Peyton Hillis, not expected to play again for Kansas City. I know Shane Braun was a pickup people made. It's kind of the insurance for him as well. Javid Best is still out. Interesting name, Javon Ringer. We talked about, people talked about him a little bit because of the troubles of Chris Johnson, but he's not going to do anything. He's an MCL, and he's out 4 to 6 weeks. So a couple of interesting names that are still left. The big one, I think, and hurts me in many leagues, Cedric Benson has a Will Frank injury. Yeah. And he's out. I mean, you're talking
out.
8 weeks, which, it could be the entire
maybe
season.
for the season, too. So it's just a shame because he was really starting to play real good, getting some decent fantasy points, liked his schedule kind of moving forward. That's a big blow to some fantasy owners. And, it looks like moving forward, you're looking at, like a James Starks or they're talking Alex Green maybe. It's very unclear because James Starks was supposed to be the guy. He sort of fell out of favor with the coaching staff, so that's why they bring in Cedric Benson. Once you're, sort of out with the coach, it's tough to get back in their favor. And now, then there was a report that came out today that Alex Green is not really good with pass blocking. So I'm guessing James Starks gets the nod to start, but I don't know that he's going to be carrying the load the whole time, probably mix and match, and depending on what plays they got going on. Is my best educated guess,
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, for this week, a lot of the ads are basically due to the injuries. You had RG3. Kirk Cousins is going to come in for him if he doesn't go. I think we've pretty much established Brady Quinn's going to get the nod for Matt Castle. For Green Bay, I'll tell you, you look at their rushing game last year, and it was putrid. And, at least Cedric Benson came in and provided some stability. And, without him in there, I don't know that anyone's really worth a pickup, You mentioned Alex Green had a 41 or 44-yard run and then did nothing else. James Starks was a healthy scratch last week. So,
Right.
Hey, pick him up at your own your own risk there. I'm not really expecting much. And also, we'll get back to Jermichael Finley's out with the shoulder injury. So I think you're looking, more James Jones. I think you're looking more, hopefully, Jordy Nelson. I think he's going to see the receiver pick it up.
Yeah, I've never been a real big Jermichael Finley fan. I mean, I don't think The guy just doesn't have the hands that you're supposed to have. With what I think everybody willed him to be is better than he was. He's just the hands aren't there, and don't have any faith that him. Never did.
Yeah, no, you're right. I have had faith in him in the past. It's been a big disappointment. So I owe ye little faith from now until you actually prove something.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, we'll get back with, as I said, we got a long list of injuries. We'll get back. We're running up against another commercial break, and then we'll if you have any calls, we'll take your calls, 877-511-1024. We are the Piccalilli Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Our website is www.kickassfantasyfootball.com, and we'll be back in 2 minutes with Jumpin' John and the Commish.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Car Toys, the most innovative car customizing shop in its class. Summer is here, and so's the heat. Better get that remote start so you can cool off in your car in style with your smartphone. Car Toys can install remote start in Mercedes-Benz, push-button start, and stick shift. Reduce that glare with the best 3M window film. And while you're at it, get your car detailed by Car Toys Detail Department so your ride looks, feels, and smells brand new. Car Toys defines what everything for your car really means, from TV to reality. That's why Car Toys is the leader in the industry in car customization. Car Toys' knowledgeable team are the best in their class. Like Car Toys on Facebook and check them out at distinctivecartoys.com.
Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.com.
Fantasy football owners, the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show is back every Sunday this season with everything you need to cruise into a championship. Join me, the professor,
and me, the commish, along with fantasy insider Matt Lowry. Get all your fantasy football news as we break down all the players and tell you who to start and who to trade while we take your calls all show long.
We'll see you every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. all season long here on 97.3 ESPN. Check us out on the web at...
Listen up, fantasy football owners. If you want top quality, guaranteed authentic sports memorabilia, there's only one place to go. Prestige Sports Marketing. They offer autographed baseball and football jerseys, framed jerseys, helmets, bats, photos, and amazing artwork. They're 100% guaranteed authentic, so you can feel 100% confident. Check out Prestige Sports Marketing at PrestigeSportsMKTG.com. That's PrestigeSportsMKTG.com. Enter promo code ESPN and get 10% off.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Piccalilli Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show on Blog Talk Radio. Your host, Jumpin' John, with the Commish. So I'll tell you, Commish, we've breezed through the first two segments. Got about 20 minutes left, and it's been a great time so far. Let's see how far we can get. We were talking about our injuries, talking about running backs. A few other running backs I do want to mention. Miami's having a little bit of issues right now. Reggie Bush is supposedly bothered by his injury still, so whether it's an excuse or not, I'm not really sure. But the problem is Daniel Thomas had a concussion, and so he is out, I'm sure, for next week. So maybe some issues with Miami running game coming up. And another concussion, real quick, is Andre Brown for the Giants had a concussion. Right. Not sure it's relevant with with Ahmad Bradshaw's reemergence, but Andre Brown is out with a concussion. Let's go receivers a little bit, because there's definitely some interesting names that are hitting the injury. And the first one, much to the chagrin of my 8-year-old who doesn't even know the meaning of chagrin, Danny Amendola, one catch, has 44 yards and separated shoulder. So Danny Amendola, he's out for about 6 weeks. Big blow to the Rams. What do you?
Man, that's just a big blow. He obviously emerged as the number one receiver for Bradford. Definitely a PPR gold kind of guy. And this just really hurts bad, because now he's got to search for that next go-to guy, the next man up. I'm just scratching my head for trying to figure out who that is, because That's just a tough team. I mean, I never liked the running back there. I mean, it's just a tough team. Amendola was sort of the only bright star that team had, so this is a big blow, not only for fantasy but for the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, Steven Jackson has been their breadwinner for a couple of years. They finally started to get a little bit of passing game going. And, I'm not even really sure who you pick up at this point from the Rams. Other than Amendola, who, as you mentioned, was PPR gold, I'm not really sure there's anyone else that you're really looking to add from, as a pickup. So, big blow.
Right. I mean, the Rams are, who's on there? You're looking at Brandon Gibson. I mean, really? I mean, Stephen Smith, we're still waiting to emerge from when he left the Giants to go to the Eagles, right? I mean, Chris Gibbons, I was a little high on him at the beginning of the year, the rookie, but you know what? He hasn't been getting it done. Brian Quick showed a little bit on Sunday, but I don't know. There's a lot of dreck there. I mean, someone's got to step up. Stephen Smith, you would think, should be the guy, because he was definitely getting it done when he played in New York, but ever since the injury, he's just been nothing. I mean, I'm guessing Lance Kendricks at tight end, he's sort of a bright spot, I guess, but just not much to hang your hat on. I think you got to look elsewhere if you're looking until someone emerges and does something there.
Yeah, I think it's it's pure speculation right now. So good luck in picking out that. A couple young, promising names that are out for definitely a couple weeks. Jerome Simpson, I guess it's sort of a weird issue with him. First, early reports were an ankle, and they're saying it's back. It's causing some weakness, but he didn't even get a chance to play, and he's out for the Vikings. He came off suspension, was expected to do some big things, and now I don't even know if he's really going to get the chance.
I had a lot of high hopes for Simpson. I saw a lot of the neat stuff he did in preseason, and I thought with all the attention going to Harvard, he was going to have a chance to really put up some decent numbers, and then this sort of weird, injury out of the blue comes up, and so absolutely droppable at this point. You can't let him hurt you, so move forward. Yeah, so another young, sort of promising, had a big game and was emerging as a second option in Chicago. Alshon Jeffrey has a fracture in his hand, and he's out for probably 4 to 6 weeks. So that's I think a blow for Chicago, just because it's going to put a lot more pressure on Brandon Marshall, and he's been a stud this year, but maybe we'll see his numbers dip a little bit with the maybe a little bit more look from safety coming over to help him or not. Yeah, I was looking for Alshon Jeffrey really to be the clear number 2 wide receiver with his height and his speed, and it was absolutely going that way. This is a real shame to his value as a fantasy player. Devin Hester, I've never really been impressed with. He had that one good move just a couple weeks ago for a touchdown. Other than that, he's never been a really good route runner. Other bad news there, Earl Bennett, their wide receiver 3, also has a little bit of an injury. So, you got to go all the way back to what I remember the professor pointing out to me last year, Dane Sazenbacher, to be emerging here as a wide receiver 3. So they're really going into the depths of things, at the wide receivers. Definitely hurts them big time.
Well, as a Matt Forte owner, I'm hoping that's a bigger and better role for him. So, yay, Matt Forte.
Absolutely.
A couple tight ends of note. We talked about Jermichael Finley. Jimmy Graham, he sprained an ankle, and I haven't really heard much since. And it's obviously a big blow. I know a lot of people have him as either a tight end or they doubled up on Graham and Gronkowski and are using him as a flex. One of them is a flex. So Jimmy Graham has an ankle sprain. You heard any more news about him?
Yeah, nothing much yet. So we're going to keep our eye on that. I know he was actually hurt going into this week's game and did play. So, it depends on how much pain that he could actually withstand moving forward. But I don't expect him to miss any time.
Oh, that would be good news. Another tight end of note, Martellus Bennett for the Giants. Has a knee sprain, and tell you, those Giants receivers, Nix is out, Ramses Barden had concussion, and now Martellus Bennett. So what's going on there in New York receiving corps?
Oh man, it's just really a mess with all the injuries this team's got going on. And what's going on is Victor Cruz, right? Guy's just a touchdown machine. So good news for Cruz, just bad news for Benitez because he's really been getting it done, and it's been came on as a fantasy explosion, really. So it's a shame this is happening, and luckily there's still some other good tight ends out there to pick up.
Yeah, it's very deep this year in tight ends, so there's definitely others that can be picked up, but still he's definitely emerging as a go-to guy. So that's a shame for the New York Giants, and as I said, Victor Cruz picking up the slack. I want to mention real quick a couple guys that we kind of forgot. Ryan Williams, starting running back, in Arizona. Not that means a whole lot, but anytime you get a starting running back, you want to grab him. He's out for the season with shoulder injury. He's on IR. And so I guess, there's two names, and we'll mention, talk about them a little bit later, but William Powell and LaRod Stevens-Howling are the two men left standing in the Arizona backfield. So, I think let's move those names. I have one of them I want to talk about a little bit later. So, and the other thing I want to mention, some crazy injuries to Michael Vick. I don't know if you knew this, but he had two separate hand injuries, which is obviously the reason for his two fumbles, and he had a third, but he recovered in time. So, let's add Michael Vick to the injury list because there's obviously something wrong with him, his hands, and he fumbles so much.
No doubt, absolutely.
Good. It's a little bit of levity from Jumpin' John. So I'll tell you what, I know you really like to go over this segment, so let's go over it real quick. Players to trade and players to trade for. So, being the all-knowing commish, who do you want to trade for? Who's going to help your fantasy team from here on out? Let's throw a couple names.
Okay, I will. I got some great players to trade for this week, and I'll give you some reasons why. Starting out with RG3. Of course, he has that mild concussion. He was cleared for practice. Probably heard a lot of fantasy owners with this past week, and obviously a lot of concern for him right now, which makes his value low. So take him now, while his owner may be in a moment of weakness, because this guy, I've been touting him all year as probably the fantasy quarterback player of the year. So definitely a strong play. If you can get him, I would, absolutely.
All right. There's one name that interests me. I have him in a couple leagues as well. For some reason, I seem to double up a lot on Cedric Benson and Willis McGahee. So why don't you tell us about Willis?
Love Willis McGahee. Another great choice at running back, especially with the better play of Peyton Manning. Teams really can't load up 8 in the box on him right now. And guess what? He's got a great schedule versus the run coming up. Matter of fact, just to share, he's got the number one schedule, as a matter of fact, the rest of the way against the run. With San Diego this week, then a bye, and then check this out. The next 3 games are the Saints, the Bengals, Carolina, and then San Diego again. Guess what? Awesome schedule against the run. Definitely a guy you want to go after.
I like hearing that. There's a name that I am going to question. The first 2 picks, I could see why you went for RG3. I liked him Gahee pick, but Doug Martin, he's been losing some carries, losing some third down work. The Garrett Blanc took a goal line touchdown from him. You have Doug Martin as a player to trade for. Why don't you tell me why?
Well, his value's really low, especially like you said, he's been losing the carries, some substandard play. But the good news is he's coming off the bye week, and he's playing teams like the Chiefs, the Saints, the Raiders, the Chargers comp. A very, very easy, doable schedule. It's got the number 4 schedule against the run the rest of the way. So he should really be able to do some damage and be the guy that we all wanted him to be when we drafted him in the beginning of the year.
All right. And the last name on your list, he's probably one of the bigger, if not the biggest, fantasy disappointment. I personally, I'm throwing Chris Johnson up there. But you may throw this next guy up there. But you're saying to trade for him. So who do you got as the last person to trade for?
Darren McFadden. I'd say throw everything you can at this guy, at that owner, to get him right now. His schedule for the versus the run the rest of the way, once again, is cake. and he is off his bye week. And that's very important. He's got the number 2 schedule the rest of the way against the run. We've been saying it since preseason that, if this guy can stay healthy, he's going to win your league championship for you. Well, here's where he's going to do it. He's got Atlanta this week. Then he's got Jacksonville, Kansas City. Okay, Tampa Bay's definitely a little bit tough against the run. Baltimore a little bit easier, not much easier, but a little easier to Tampa. Then you got the Saints, the Bengals, Cleveland, Denver. The schedule is awesome, and he's got a ton of talent. And when there's stuff in the run, he does catch the ball really well out of the backfield. So once again, if he remains healthy, he will lead your team to a championship. So go get him.
That's the type of analysis that we all know and love, and that is why you are the commish. I'll tell you what.
Jumpin' John, you're the man.
we have a couple names down here and players to trade. I'm finding them interesting, and we'll go to them after our break. So we've got 2 minutes. This is the Piccalilli Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. The commish is on with your host, Jumpin' John Prevost, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Car Toys, the most innovative car customizing shop in its class. Summer is here, and so's the heat. Better get that remote start so you can cool off in your car in style with your smartphone. Car Toys can install remote start on Mercedes-Benz, push-button start, and stick shift. Reduce that glare with the best 3M window film. And while you're at it, get your car detailed by Car Toys Detail Department so your ride looks, feels, and smells brand new. Car Toys defines what everything for your car really means, from TV to reality. That's why Car Toys is the leader in the industry in car customization. Car Toys' knowledgeable team are the best in their class. Like Car Toys on Facebook and check them out at distinctivecartoys.com.
We're famous for our buffalo wings. The Piccalilli. When it comes to cooking wings, we're the king. The Piccalilli. Pull up a chair, grab a table, enjoy the atmosphere. Have something good to eat or have yourself around here. If you can't stop in, stop back. Great food, great drinks where everybody is a friend. If you can't stop in, stop back. The Piccalilli Inn.
It isn't fall without the famous Piccalilli Inn. Catch all of your favorite football action at the Piccalilli Inn. Check out the Pick's brand new menu featuring homemade buffalo chicken egg rolls, buffalo shrimp, scallops, and the tender Pick burger. They go great with one of the Pick's ice-cold on-tap beers. Catch every football game at the Pick. Enjoy an awesome meal while you watch your favorite team. The Piccalilli Inn, a Jersey tradition since the 1920s. On Route 206 in Chemung. If you can't stop in, stop back.
The Piccalilli Inn.
Fantasy football owners, it's draft time, and KickassFantasyFootball.com makes it easy.
How do we make it easy?
Projections from the experts, cheat sheets with your scoring rules.
What else?
Articles all season long, waiver wire picks, trade advice, everything you need to win a championship.
How about a free judgment from FantasyJudgment.com, a $15 value?
Now we're talking.
Subscribe today for just $9.95 and we'll throw in a complimentary cruise for 2 to the Bahamas.
Cruise to a championship with KickassFantasyFootball.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to our last segment on the Piccalilli Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I know most of you, I'm sure, were on the edge of your seat just as I was, so we can get to the players to trade for position. I like the analysis on the players to trade. I can't wait to hear players to trade for. I can't wait to hear what you have to say for players to trade. A couple names on there. Had 200-yard rushing game, and he's emerged as a solid RB1, and you have him as a player to trade. So what's the deal?
I do. Well, I'm a very big proponent. I've been telling everybody for the past 3 years when you could go to our website at KickassFantasyFootball.com and read my blog about the art of the trade. It's buy low, sell high. Well, guess what? Bradshaw right now is at an all-time high. Now is the time to sell him. He is absolutely an injury risk. That's why they drafted with their number 1 pick, David Wilson. He still has to learn how to pass block. That's what caused him to, and of course his fumbling caused him to lose a little bit of his luster early in the season. But here he comes in amongst the great play of Bradshaw and rips off a 40-yard touchdown. I don't expect Bradshaw to ever make it through a season because I don't know that he actually ever has. He also, by the way, put all that aside. Put all aside that he's an injury risk and David Wilson's now going to be the backup because of the concussion to Andre Brown. They have an immensely tough schedule coming up. You got San Fran this week, then Washington, then Dallas, then Pittsburgh. You got 4 straight games where I don't foresee him doing anything, not only near a 200-yard game, I don't know that he reaches 100 yards. So very tough schedule versus the run the rest of the way here, the next 4 weeks, I should say. I think now you trade him and you go after one of these guys we talked about earlier in the show who have a really great schedule against run, because right now you can get probably whatever you want for him because of his amazing play.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I like what you have to say, and I definitely have a proclivity to exclude New York Giants in my fantasy thoughts. I can't get Eli Manning on any team. I just can't do it. I do have Cruz on the team, so I guess receivers are all right. So I'm good with selling off Bradshaw. We talked about Robert Meacham, one-game wonder. He's talking about trade for. So he hasn't done much. He had a great game. Now you're going to trade him?
Yeah, I mean, look, right now he had a huge game. I called it last week on our ESPN show on Sunday mornings. Playing up against his old team. He put up 2 touchdowns, put up some great fantasy points. He was a great sleeper pick. Well, right now you have a lot of bye weeks going on, and you might have a team hurt maybe with an injury bug. Guess what? I think you unload him. Maybe you can pick up a nice WR2 for him, or maybe a strong tight end 1. I would take whatever you can for him right now because I don't know that I'll repeat what he just did this past week again.
Yeah, definitely the game to get him in there. I was fortunate enough to get him in my lineup. Not fortunate enough to win. Next player, I have 2 players here. I just wow, you're really blowing my mind here. First, the quarterback. Just tell me about it.
Well, okay, it's Tom Brady. And I know you're thinking, wow, Tom Brady, probably a number 1 pick for a lot of guys. Well, Belichick, I think, actually found a running game, and he's relying on it, especially without that 2 tight end set that he originally planned on using all year. Right now, I know you can get a 2-for-1 deal for Brady, and you can probably even get it might even be a 3-for-1. You could probably get a quarterback thrown in for him. You can get yourself a nice RB1 and a WR1 right now for Brady. So if you can do it, because right now they're running the ball up and down the field. I don't think Brady is getting up there a little bit in age. I don't think he's the Brady of what we all remember. They're definitely going to have to start. He's obviously forcing the running game because I don't know that with all the injuries, especially to his wide receivers, he's going to get the play that he really wants. And he's not running the offense that he really wants to with Belichick. So with that running game right now, and he's obviously a huge name brand, I like to call him a name brand. These guys that, oh, God, number 1 pick. Guess what? Go out and go after McFadden right now with the Brady, and I think you got a hell of a shot at getting him, especially if the team needs a quarterback.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to dispute that a little bit. We'll get to that in our studs, and sleepers, but definitely a bold call. And you gotta like them. So the last player on this list.
That's why they pay you the big bucks.
That's right. Now, I'm working on the trickle down theory, but let's go with the next running back on the list, Adrian Peterson. I tell you, he's back from his injury. He's proven himself, and you're talking about trading him. That's just crazy talk.
I know. It really sounds like that. I know, because he is just absolutely amazing coming back from that ACL, MCL, proving everybody wrong that it takes an extra year to come back from that kind of injury. But guess what? As much of a stud as he is, he has the toughest schedule versus the run the rest of the way. In the past, I would say, who cares? It's Adrian Peterson, and a stud is a stud is a stud. But he just got a little bit of an ankle injury in this last game. I think you're going to see a lot of these little things creep up because of the style of game that Peterson plays. He's the kind of guy that instead of running away from you, he likes to run into you. And, he's got a brutal schedule coming up. Washington, Arizona, Tampa, then Seattle, then Detroit. These are all teams that are very tough to run against. Then after the bye, they come back against Chicago. So you're looking the next 6 games they play. Just looking at those, I don't know that you're going to get very much production out of him at all. So I think right now I'm looking to trade him and go get value for him while I can before everyone else starts looking at the schedule like I am and going, holy shit, I better do something. This guy ain't producing. You know, because it's all about winning now. It's not, you hold on to these guys and you overvalue players too much, you end up getting stuck and you're going to have a losing record.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll keep that in mind as the season goes on because I got him and I'm keeping him. Now, granted, one of those reasons is because I have Chris Johnson and I need the running back. I'm keeping him. He had 100 yards against San Francisco. Christian Ponder's starting to take form. They got a tight end threat in Kyle Rudolph. It's not 8 men in the box against the Vikings anymore. So you can talk about tough schedules all you want. He's one of the premier running backs in the league. He's getting healthy again, and I'm keeping him. So we'll find out at the end of the year who's right or who's wrong.
Absolutely.
So I'll tell you what, we got real quick left. Let's go real quickly through studs, and sleepers. I got Roddy White as my stud. I think honestly it's his turn. He seems to do better at home. He's averaging 135 yards and 1.5 touchdowns at home. Oakland's letting up 282 yards. So there's my stud of the week. What do you got there for your stud?
My stud of the week is going to have to be Doug Martin versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Love the matchup. I think you absolutely could run big time on the Chiefs, and he's going to shine and show you why he's a guy you want to definitely go after.
All right, so Doug Martin, that's not a bad call. My dud of the week, here's where I'm disputing you. My dud of the week is going to be Stephen Ridley. They're going against Seattle in Seattle. Seattle's only letting up 66 yards rushing a game. DeMarco Murray has 44 yards against them. Steven Jackson, 55 yards. And I think, kudos to New England. They're adjusting their game to do what they need to do. But I think, against Seattle, they're going to need to pass. They probably get Aaron Hernandez back. Gronkowski's battling through an injury, but, he'll be Gronkowski. And my dud's going to be Stephen Ridley.
All right, my dud's going to have to be Jamal Charles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, I know he went off last week with 140 yards rushing, but they're going up against Tampa Bay coming off the bye, and Tampa Bay is at home, very tough to run against. So I'm looking, especially with Castle going down and, Brady Quinn going in, Jamal Charles is going to be stuffed, my dud of the week.
But I'll tell you, I was thinking of Brady Quinn as my sleeper of the week, and I honestly did think of JC as my dud of the week. I didn't have the cojones to do that. I had MJD as my dud last week, so maybe I should have kept that tradition up. And, oh, by the way, I was right. One of the few things I was right on last week. But I'll tell you, my sleeper of the week, Larod Stevens-Howling. I think, he may be a one-week wonder. Arizona's offensive line is just horrible. They're down 3 starters from the beginning of the year. They just can't get a whole lot in the rushing game, but they're playing Buffalo. Buffalo their opponents are averaging 171 yards rushing against them, and I think if you got Larod, got a chance to get Stevens-Howling for a week, get him, and he'll be the sleeper of the week.
Okay, my sleeper of the week is going to be Don Brown versus the Jets, and went all running backs this week. I love Don Brown. Definitely a sleeper, a guy that you're not probably really thinking of. I think you could use him this week as an RB2 against the Jets. Jets defense is just decimated, and I think with all the attention that Luck is getting, Reggie Wayne on one side, Donnie Avery, he missed a 50-yard touchdown pass by inches just last week, and Colby Fleener even getting into the mix. Don Brown can actually have a decent game for you as a sleeper pick against the Jets this week.
It's a bold call. I dropped him in a league or two. I was hoping for more from him. Didn't get it. So, Donald Brown, good, we'll find out if that's a good call. I like the pick. And speaking of picks, this is the Piccalilli Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show, and we are out of time. So, Commissioner, I'll tell you, it's been a great hour, and I'm glad you're able to make it tonight.
Hey, man, me too. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to, by the way, going 6-0 this week in the Staff League.
See? Fantasy Karma. Fantasy Karma. I'm telling you right now.
You're right. You should have said
it. Yeah. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll be back on Sunday morning on ESPN 97.3 with the Commission Professor. So until then, we'll see you later.
Turn out the light, the party's over.